Before we begin, I would like to say that the links to the stories will be in the description below if you want to read along with me. With that being said, let's begin. Number 1. Before I start, here's a bit of context to my story. My husband and I lived in a small 2-floor house with 2 main entrances, one along the front and the other on the side of the house, which opens up into the laundry room. When we're too busy or it's too late to walk our dog, we hook his collar onto a long line that's attached to one of the pipes on the corner of our house so we can use the bathroom. We used to do this from the door in our laundry room, but we noticed the large step from the door to the ground had been taking a toll on his hips. As a result, we started letting him out through the front door instead, since the porch is much closer to the ground. This particular night, I was home alone with my dog, and it was around midnight when I decided to let him outside one last time before going to bed. I hook him up onto his line, close the door, and lock it, before heading into the kitchen to put away the dishes. This was pretty routine. Even if he used the bathroom quickly, he liked to walk around along the front and side of the house for a few minutes before coming back inside. As I'm putting away the dishes, I hear a scratch on the door, how my dog signals he wants to come inside. So I head over to let him back in. Since I've watched way too many scary movies, I always look through the door's peephole before opening the door. Out of habit, I look to check that my dog is in front of the door. Instead, I see a man staring very intently at the door handle. I freeze with my hand on the door. I don't know how much time went by, but then I heard another scratch, this one louder than the last. This kind of wakes me up from my initial shock, and I run to grab my cell phone. I call my husband to tell him what's happening. He was very confused. I probably wasn't explaining the situation very well, but he says that he's heading home. This is when I realize my dog is still outside with this person. I head back to the front door, trying to make as little noise as possible, to check whether the stranger is still there. Just like before, he's standing there, head bowed, looking at the doorknob. I tiptoe over to the laundry room and slowly open the door as quietly as possible. I can't see my dog anywhere, and the side of my house is covered in gravel. I knew I couldn't step outside without making a lot of noise. With my heart still pounding in my chest, I go to the front door to keep an eye on the stranger and to get a better look at him. I considered calling the police, but I didn't feel they would take me seriously since all this man was doing was standing in front of my house. I tried taking a picture of him with my cell phone, but my camera was only able to take pictures of the peephole and not the images behind the glass. All of a sudden, the man looks up directly at me. I swear he knew I was there. He glares at me, then opens his mouth to show this taunting, malicious grin. He stood there that way for a few seconds. With that, he turns around and starts to walk down the street. I stay in the same place, almost expecting him to rush back and start pounding on the door. Luckily, my husband got back after a few minutes. Long story short, he convinced me to call the police, and we went out looking for our dog. It turns out this man had cut the end of the line connected to the pipe, and our dog decided this was a good time for him to explore my neighbor's backyard, which is where we found them. It's been 3 years since this happened. We've since moved to a new house for unrelated reasons. and the police weren't able to come up with any suspects. Ever since then, we take our dog on very long walks before the sun goes down. Number 2. I live in the deep south in a small rural town. We are near towns that border the Gulf of Mexico, so we have public beaches. One night, my husband and I and our favorite couple friends decided to go to one of the public beaches in our area to throw some chicken on the grill and party into the wee hours of the morning. This was always one of our favorite things to do on a Friday or Saturday night during the warm months of spring and summer. So, to describe this particular public beach, it's pretty isolated, but it is just off a main highway. At night, the occasional 18-wheeler and other cars pass, but not a steady stream. Just vehicles here and there. But the picnic tables are in a long straight line, with the building housing the restrooms, kind of in the center. Past the tables, there is a wide expanse of white sand, and then the beach past that. So the beach is on one side, the road is on the other. I hope that gives you somewhat of a visual. So, as soon as the 4 of us get to the beach, our husbands want to drive into the next town to buy beer. It's part of a ritual of this. So, they leave, and my friend Jana and I are sitting on top of a picnic table, laughing and catching up on gossip, occasionally turning the chicken on the grill. I have stayed here before while they made the store run, and have never thought anything to be afraid of. It's always been safe, and most of the time, no one stops here at night, unless they're going to use the restrooms. Anyway, our husbands had not been gone long when a van passes by. The van slowed down as it was passing the beach. You can see everything from the road, as the area where the picnic tables is well lit. We just glanced at the van and kept talking, but after a minute or so, the van came back. I'm a little nervous, because from the time I was a child, I've had a few creepy encounters, but I kind of shrugged my nervousness off, thinking maybe it was just someone coming to use the restrooms, or even possibly someone we knew. So, the way the tables are situated, they each have several parking spaces in front where you pull in. The front bumper of your car would be facing the tables, but they pulled in sideways, taking up several spaces, where the passenger side was facing us. My friend Jana and I just looked at each other, kind of wondering what's up with this. This guy gets out of the driver's side and walks around to where we were. The side door slides open and another guy climbs out and just kind of leans against the side of the van. I could see another guy in the back seat, but didn't get a good look at him. The guy in the passenger seat did not get out, but kept looking around nervously. So, the driver walks around to where we're sitting and says, "Good evening. How are you lovely ladies doing?" Or something goofy like that. All of the guys had longish hair, and the guy leaning against the side of the van looked like a biker. He was tall, kind of chubby, had long brownish hair, and had a bandana tied around the back of his head. I'm not good at guessing ages, but I would have guessed that they may have been from their mid-30s. The driver, however, looked a little older, with grayish hair, beard, etc. So, we are trying to be polite without encouraging anything. The driver was the only one that talked to us, which I thought was strange. And the guy standing by the van had his arms crossed and just looked mean. The driver asked what such lovely ladies as ourselves were doing out here all alone. Of course, we explained that our husbands had gone to the store and should be back any minute. He invited us to go partying with him, and of course, we told him thanks for the offer, but we're gonna wait for our husbands. At this point, Jana and I were both feeling really nervous. A highway patrol car passed by at that time. The guy on the driver's side looked like he was freaking out then. He had been nervously looking behind them and stuff. He finally said, "Hey Cal, y'all get them in the car and let's get out of here, man." Thank God, my husband's familiar vehicle drives up just a few seconds later, and the guy leaning against the van got back inside. Cal shook hands with my husband, looked kind of self-conscious, and kind of politely got back in the van, and they drove away. My creepometer that lets me know when something or someone's not right was rising to the top. My friend Jana had this wonderful protected childhood, and she doesn't always get a weird sense like I do. But she said they made her feel nervous. I hope they didn't mean it like they said it, but it made me feel as if they were thinking of forcing us into the van. Later, in retrospect, I wonder if the guy in the driver's seat was the lookout, and Cal and his buddy leaning against the van were thinking of forcing us to go with them. I won't say let's not meet, because I know there are people that don't like it, but I hope I never see them again. Number 3. This is my first time posting on Reddit. I've been content just lurking for quite some time, but I found this thread and figured it would be the right place to share the story. It's bothered me for a long time, and maybe it'll help to write it out. When I was 6, I went to a week-long family reunion at a lodge somewhere. I only have a few vague memories of this, mostly involving candy, like many of my earliest memories. Years later, I had a couple of vivid nightmares about this lodge, and about a man, 60-ish, overweight, with bright blue eyes and white hair that had vacated the top of his head. The more disturbing details of these nightmares are not important. Dreams are very unreliable sources. But I do have one real memory of this vacation that is very clear. I was lying in bed one night, long after my siblings had gone to sleep. I never had trouble sleeping as a child, but this night I was wide awake when I heard something at my window that made me jump out of my skin. I ran to my parents' room, crying hysterically, and pounded on the door so hard my fist hurt. The memory ends there. But years later, when I started having the nightmares, I asked my parents about it. That was when I found out that when they had gone to my room that night, they found the screen cut open from the outside and a small ladder leaning against the window. My parents had us sleep in their room, and we left early the next day. What would have happened if I had been able to sleep that night? I think I'd rather not know. The next story was submitted to me by 1DBZ Master 1123. Number 4. 2 days ago, I was in bed about to go to sleep. But right before I get into a deep sleep, my eyes popped wide open, and I saw a man right beside my bed in the dark. At first, I thought it was my dad, so I said hey. The man then turned his head and started getting closer to me, but as I reached out to him, he disappeared. I swear to God, I'm not making this up. Thank you for listening. Remember, if you liked this video, to leave a thumbs up and also subscribe for future content. Before I end this video, I would just like to say that if any of you, or anybody you know, has had anything creepy or strange happen to them, you can submit your story to the email in the description below. With that being said, have a great night, everyone. And as always, stay safe.